we'll have five guys. It's PJ Tucker, Pascal
Bridges and Bros.
Siakam, Zach Levine, and PJ Tucker, Pascal Siakam, Zach Levine, DeMar DeRozan, and OG Anunoby. And we're gonna list 1 to 10, 10 being most likely that they will be traded, and if you want, you can say what team, and one being not likely that they'll be traded. You can also say if they're not going to be traded, if they're going to be bought out. But basically, I just want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. We can just run through this. It'll probably take like 5 minutes. But let's go ahead. PJ Tucker, I've said this before, and I kind of touched on this before we went on break. I believe PJ Tucker is a guy that nobody's going to trade for because of the money. And either the Clippers are just going to tell him we're saving you for the playoffs and we need you on the roster, or B, we're just going to have to buy you out because everybody else is just going to be like, hey, we're not going to trade even a second round pick for a 40-year
Because
old.
he's isn't he getting paid
10
like
million.
almost 10 million?
He is almost 11
Okay,
million.
exactly. It's over 10 million. Okay, I was like around 10 million. I figured it was somewhere in that ballpark. Either way, too much money for him.
Yeah, I think it's
And
a one.
I think what he is like, I think what's gonna happen is I think the Clippers are like because they're not gonna there's not a market for him. Like no one's gonna trade for him. So what's gonna happen is I
There's
don't
a
think that the
market
Clippers are
for him
gonna
if
buy
he's
him.
bought out. I don't
Yeah,
think
but I
there's a
don't think the
trade.
Clippers are gonna buy him. I honestly don't think the Clippers are gonna buy him out.
I
I think
agree.
they are gonna do to keep him on the roster until the playoffs.
I
Even if he
agree.
doesn't even play a role for them in the playoffs, it's like, hey, you know, we need you just in case shit goes south and Kawhi ends up missing games in the playoffs again, and Paul George
Salary
ends up missing
filler.
games in the playoffs again. We
Salary
need
filler
you.
too for next
It would have to
offseason.
be it would have to be salary, yeah, and salary for like a bigger trade.
Exactly.
But he will not be moved this year. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't even think he gets bought out. I think he just stays at the Clippers.
He only gets bought out if he's really that disgruntled.
And it's got to be really bad. Like we've got to like nothing that I've seen. I mean, like he's been disgruntled, but it's like Clippers aren't really going to move on from him. They don't need to.
Yeah.
He'd have to publicly call out Steve Ballmer for being like, a rapist or something.
Henry?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I do think that he is still a good player, so I would give like a 3, but I would find a deal pretty unlikely.
Jackson, would you have your Rockets somebody trade for him?
No, but 5.
5? All right. Jackson's more likely than everybody else. So let's move on to the next guy that they're saying right here, and that will be DeMar DeRozan. They're saying that not the Miami Heat, my apology, the New York Knicks and the Los Angeles Lakers would be the most my apology, the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks are the two most likely teams to trade for DeMar DeRozan if he were. He is an expiring deal. He supposedly very much values Chicago, like he loves Chicago, it's his home, and the Bulls very much value him. However, contract talks have stalled, and the thought is if he goes to New York or Miami, he's basically going to verbally commit to them and resign there. So I just don't see Miami being a fit. Like Jimmy Butler and DeMar, very similar skill sets offensively. So I just don't like that. New York, I kind of like it, but I feel like you're going to give up too many young guys, like a combination of RJ Barrett or, Evan Fournier with Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel Quickly. I just think it's too much for a guy that I don't think really raises your ceiling, just more so raises your floor. So I think DeMar DeRozan being traded is a 5 because I could see a contending team getting desperate and wanting to get a fresh
You
player.
kind of took the words. You kind of took the words right out of my mouth for the Knicks. I was about to say the exact same thing. They're gonna have to give up too much, too many young players, and it's gonna gut their roster. So it won't necessarily be a ceiling raiser to push them over the edge from being like the fourth or fifth best team in the East. But yeah, I'll go with like a 4 or 5. Decently likely, like average chance he might get traded.
Yeah, I could
Maybe
see someone
not.
getting desperate.
Yeah, and it would have to be like, let's say, for example, the Heat go on a slump and are in the 9 seed in the deadline. Well, that would be an instance where they would have to make a move, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I agree.
We
Henry?
still got 2 months. A lot can change.
Yeah, and I do think that he could help Miami if you have to stagger him with Jimmy Butler a ton. I don't like the Knicks fit. I think he could help the Lakers to stagger LeBron down the stretch.
Makes sense.
I'd give it a 6 though. I think he's going to be on the move, but it's hard to say where the best fit would be.
I hear you. Jackson, what do you think your hometown kid?
What is it? DeMar?
DeMar.
1. And with that, I will depart.
Ciao.
Zach Levine's a 1 as well. Max Kobe White. Max Patrick Williams, run it back.
Continuity. All right, so let's go over here. Next one on the list is Pascal Siakam. I think Pascal Siakam is a 7. I do believe he will either go to the Hawks or the Kings or the Thunder. He is a guy that I think one of these young teams believe that he is the like teams that have two guys. So
Hawks.
yeah, I think it's Hawks personally.
Hawks, because they're the most desperate. Like, they are the most desperate of any of the teams that you just said. They're way more desperate to do something other than the Thunder
And I
and
think
the Kings.
And I think the deal is going to be a lot simpler than people think. I think it's going to be Clint Capella going to a third team and they getting assets for Clint Capella to send to the Raptors and them sending like DeAndre Hunter or Bogdan with maybe like AJ Griffin and maybe Kobe Buffkin or somebody to the Raptors.
Yeah.
And then the Raptors send Pascal with maybe like Malachi Flynn or like maybe an asset from another team like the Grizz if they send Clint Capella there because the Grizz need a backup center. So something like that where assets are. I think it's I agree. I say a 7 Pascal.
6 or 7 probably. I think the Hawks are just desperate enough that they might do something drastic and make a trade for Pascal. I don't know if that's necessarily going to make them better than a play-in team, but that's what they want. That's what they're going to do. Like, they know that their time is running out with this core to do something successful.
And I think they're the only
Isn't it?
Go.
Oh, sorry. You first. I'm about to talk about the Raptors.
I was just gonna say the only thing I think holding this deal back is that the Raptors are probably asking for Jalen Johnson, and the Hawks are trying to do everything in their power not to trade Jalen Johnson in this deal.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. I think that Jalen Johnson is definitely like what hinges on this deal not being done.
It
I
wasn't.
also think that it's.
Go.
I also think that it's funny that the Raptors are running out of time to make a move and they need to trade Pascal, obviously. But like now you're having the Scotty Barnes breakout, so you're going to tear down the best iteration of this group that has existed around Scotty Barnes, just as he's ascending as a great player.
Yeah, it is kind of funny, but it's like at the end of the day, like they got to get rid of Pascal. It's not saying he doesn't fit the team's timeline, but like he's about to be a free agent. Like they're not going to resign him. They're not.
Yep.
So
No.
you got to get something from him.
With what you guys are saying, I actually think they trade Pascal, and I think I give OG Anunoby a 3 at being traded. If they keep Pascal,
He's way more likely to stay if they keep Pascal.
So
if they trade Pascal.
If they trade Pascal, OG stays. If they don't trade Pascal, OG gets traded. But I think they're trading Pascal because OG is a better fit next to Scotty Barnes.
Pascal's worth more.
Pascal's worth more.
No, maybe.
He's a better player. He's a better player than OG.
Yes.
I think you can get more for Pascal. He's a better player.
And in a weird way, OG might be cheaper to keep long term. And it's just, I think personally, OG is a more seamless fit. And then they kind of appease OG's ego by making him now the second star instead of him being third star. I give it a 3. I don't think he gets traded.
It depends on what happens with Pascal, but yeah, I feel like they would definitely be more likely to trade Pascal, and if we're assuming that they will, OG should stay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll give it a 5 or something if they don't trade Pascal.
All right, and let's get to the last one right here, and that
Mr. LaVine.
is Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine being traded is an 8. They're saying
very common.
They're saying it's either going to be the Lakers or the
Knicks.
The Knicks we're hearing, but we're also hearing Detroit could get in there. We're hearing
Oh, Jesus.
We're hearing rumblings of a few other teams. I personally, no offense to Zach LaVine, seems like a nice guy. I just don't think he plays winning basketball. I think he's a very similar, if not a very similar player to Bradley Beal. Maybe worse.
Maybe slightly worse, but
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, like before this year, like Zach LaVine's pretty much been like a 25-point scorer for like the last 5 seasons. Like it's not that like he's a good player. Like he's gonna get you like 23 or 24 because that's what he does.
No, I agree.
So like I don't know if not playing winning basketball is the right term. I mean, we know he's not a good defender, but clearly the best way to maximize his skill set is to get him on a playoff contender, on a good team, not languishing on the shitty Chicago Bulls. I think
Yeah,
the
that's a
Lakers
good point.
makes the most sense. I think the Lakers makes the most sense as far as like him getting the best out of him.
I agree. I agree. Henry?
Yeah, it's really just a matter of are they down to tie up their future flexibility by acquiring him.
Exactly. All
I
right.
don't like the Knicks fit.
I don't like the Knicks fit
Same.
either.
Same.
I like the Miami Heat fit the best.
Yeah, I think the thought of him on the Lakers is dangerous. I would say that would be my
I'd say
favorite
Lake.
fit.
I
I'd
just
put
think
his
they
trade
give up too
likelihood at like
much to get
yeah,
him.
I'd put his trade likelihood at like a 6.5. I think that the
They're
cost is
saying
going to
that
be
if the
really
Lakers trade
fascinating.
for him, it's going to have to be Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura. I'm not doing that. I'm good.
Yep, steep.
The whole thing is they're gutting the roster too much because they have too much. They don't have enough salaries to do the deal because their money's tied up to AD and LeBron. So basically,
Yeah.
you're going to be giving up 3 players for one guy. Not doing it.
Yeah, and like, I mean, if I was the Lakers, I would definitely try to include like D'Lo or something instead of like Austin Reeves. But
Yeah.
so
There's multiple deals around the league that make sense on paper, but they won't happen because when you actually look at the paper, you realize the salaries don't work.
yeah, and even if like obviously the salaries technically work, but the Lakers aren't gutting their entire team
Mm-hmm.
to get Zach. Like they just wouldn't gut their entire team to get Zach LaVine. It doesn't make sense. The Bulls would. If they're doing 3-for-1, the Bulls are going to have to do something like attach a pick or
Yeah. No, I agree.
I don't know, but I mean Zach LaVine probably a 6 or 7, maybe an 8. Maybe as we get closer to the deadline, things change.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right.
like he's a good tradable asset, but
Right here.
No matter the occasion.
What I want-
well,
Great
Oh,
Karl Anthony Towns.
well, I did it real quick because it was so easy when you looked